Hey guys,
Hello,
welcome back.
everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. This is the Rollout. I'm Lindsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Welcome.
Yay. Yeah, we've got a really exciting show today, which I think a lot of you all are going to be interested about since this is a very creative community. But first, let's dive into a little news. Genevieve, there's controversy in the game industry, I read. Go figure.
Again, who knew? Well, Cyberpunk 2077 has just gone gold and is ready to go into mass production ahead of schedule for their November 19th release. They have been pushing up the release date a few times, but it seems like this is the one that's going to stick. But as it always tends to be in the gaming community, there is a cost. So developer CD Projekt Red has been doxxed in the news lately for recently leaked emails from the studio boss and Badwowski that workers had to enter in 6 weeks of mandatory overtime to finish the game. Employees needed to complete their typical amount of work and 1 day of the weekend. In crunch culture, we know that a regular day of work can amount to 13-hour days. But Badwowski later stated that 10% of the annual profit the company generates in 2020 will be split directly among the team. That still doesn't solve issues that we are constantly facing, but at least it's some.
It's progress. I mean, geez Louise, for all the game developers I know, we feel your pain, but it's something. And also in gaming news, so for all of you maybe want to be developers who've been, trying to figure out how you can get into developing games, PlayStation announced they are doing a game developer and player bundle featuring PlayStation Plus. They claim this is like a $7,000 bundle that you only will have to pay 99 bucks for. So not only are you going to get access to a year of PlayStation Plus, but you're also going to get access to the School of Game Design. So they're going to have classes on game development. They're going to give you access to programs for helping you develop those names and learning how to work with all of those programs. So that sounds like something that could be really interesting. It's going to be on sale for, I think, the next week or so for $99. So check that out. It is the PlayStation Game Developer and Player Bundle.
That is actually quite interesting because, I mean, I have, Photoshop and photo design for it's almost $100 subscription per year. So it's a subscription. So if it's
or the monthly fee that I'm paying every month for Creative Cloud, yeah.
So if it's like a flat rate, that's actually a pretty good deal. All right, I'll applaud that. That deserves an applause.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's all the news we have. Let's bring in our amazing guest that we have for today. Genevieve, you want to start off?
Yes, absolutely. All right, so today we have Fawn Davis. Fawn Davis is hello. Fawn Davis is a fellow friend. He is also the owner of Fonco Studios. It's a studio that is located in Atwater Village in Los Angeles. He has worked on some amazing films, doing props and miniature work for film franchises as large as Star Wars and The Nightmare Before Christmas. He's also done some amazing, not quite indie films, but amazing films that I adore, such as Coraline. He does maquette work, miniature work, all that fun stuff that we love to see in movies.
Yeah. And then we have Len Marie Martens, who is a fashion designer, cosplayer, costume maker. And she has created her own vintage couture style fashion pieces with a brand. I absolutely love this brand name. This is the best brand name ever. Her brand name is Classy Looking Nerfherder, which is amazing. From 2016 to 2018, she was a finalist at the Her Universe fashion show at Comic-Con and has been featured in the New York Times. So, oh my gosh, I feel inferior. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.
So happy to be
I'm
here.
so glad. So as we know, the theme of the show today is leveling up, how to turn your passion into a business. So the first question is going to be pretty easy. How did y'all get started in your business? Did it start as a passion and then grow into your business, or tell us the beginnings?
The origin story.
The origin story.
Well, for me, it was, from childhood, I was just always into making things. Actually, I have to correct that. I was into taking things apart around the house.
I'm sure your parents
and that later, my fascination with how things work turned into a hobby of model making, and I was really into Legos and all of the kind of building and fabricating and crafts things. And I used to be addicted to those little children's books that showed you how to take a cereal box and make it into an aluminum foil covered robot, So yeah, I was just born with this fascination with how to make things, and really enjoyed that. And then, that of course drove my whole career from just that early personality type that I am.
Right. And Lynn, were you always into like creating or sewing, or how did that come about? And then mixing the geeky with the fashion?
I really get to blame my mom to start with, because she taught me how to sew when I was like 9 years old, something like that. And I was making dresses to go to the high school dances and that sort of thing. And it was also with theater. I started out, acting as a kid, and then did all the things behind the scenes, and eventually landed on costuming when I was in college, because it was sort of just blending both of those things together. And Classy Looking Nerfherder really came about because of falling into pop culture geekdom and making cosplays, and also being incredibly frustrated that the fast fashion industry standard sizing doesn't fit me. And I know that a lot of people have that problem. And so I do go with a lot of custom made stuff. I always put pockets in it. I literally can walk into any venue and no one will even think that I have pockets, but I've got like snacks and stuff.
Which is key for cons.
So yes, exactly. And the vintage side of it came from my love of 1940s, 1930s music and swing dancing. And so it's really just a whole mismatch of all my interests put together.
Wow. So what was kind of what was the thought process for you? Because, because Fawn, you started working for different companies and building from there. And Lynn, it sounds like you kind of just started your own thing from scratch. What was that journey like for you guys to go from, man, I like playing with this stuff, into this is an actual career?
Yeah, I think for me was that realization that it was a career. In the 70s, I was it's 1977. Everyone was a fan of Star Wars, of course. I love your shirt. But yeah, so I was a big fan of Star Wars. Like everyone my age, I was 7 years old. And I went to the library and I grabbed every Star Wars book I could find in the library. And one of them was The Making of Star Wars. And I remember seeing pictures of model makers on the movie. And at that moment, I was like, that's a job? That's the job I want, And pretty much from there forward, I just worked very hard to, as a goal to make it into model making. And that's really where I started in the industry, long before I had my own company, of course. And I was able to work my way up to working at the Industrial Light and Magic Model Shop right before we started working on the Star Wars movies. So it's like everything had come full circle. Yeah. So it was that moment though when I saw it in the book. I just to know that that's an option for me. That was a game changer for sure.
Wow. And Len Marie, what about you?
Well, it was about 5 years or so that I kind of had this frustration with every path that I was trying to go down with theater, and I worked a bit in film, and taking the odd jobs here and there to make ends meet when I needed to. And So I literally did a pro and con list of every single job that I had had in like the past 10 years and circled all the things that were the most important things on the pro list. And when I compiled it all together, it meant that I needed to be a business owner and that was what was going to make me happy. So I just started doing it and kind of kept going with the odd jobs here and there to puzzle piece my life together and just keep trying to grow every day. And yeah, it's I love the freedom. It's incredibly difficult to freelance, but like working from home, getting to set my own schedule, it also means that I've survived pretty well through the pandemic because I just switched gears and started making and selling a lot of masks.
That's true. And I have bought some of your masks, and they are fantastic.
Yes. That I think is how we met each other.
Fun fact,
too.
our guest from last week, Elizabeth, recommended you to me for the masks, and then it was all full circle.
Yeah, and so this is what I love, and it is so hard, but I do the very best that I can, and I really that's all we can all ask for, to do the best that we can to make ourselves happy.
So I own my own small business as well, and again, it's like you gotta switch gears when you're going through a pandemic. How do you guys market yourselves as far as getting the word out there? Because that is the hardest thing to do, is to get seen and to get repeat business and just to keep people walking through the door. Like getting people into the door is absolutely like a whole other thing. But what have you guys been doing as far as marketing for your small business?
For us, we've always used social media quite a lot. Fortunately for me, because I've been doing this for so long, a lot of the work we get in is just people that I've worked with in the past. You build a good reputation through doing good quality work at a reasonable price, and especially since we specialize in doing such strange things, just having that client base has been really helpful. But yeah, and the other part of it is kind of letting go of that part of you that your mom raises you with, and this idea that you have to be humble. Because in our business, you really have to show off. You have to show off your skills. You have to show off what you're capable of doing. So, so we go on social media and show everyone everything we do. And that's really, and that gets us the new customers, because we, inevitably we're going to get that call like, hey, we saw that you made this robot for this other show. We need a robot, so that social media has become invaluable for marketing our company for new customers.
Nothing catches the eye like a giant.
Yeah, 100% agree.
What do you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's social media, being on Instagram has been my main place of finding people. And I get a lot of commission requests for cosplays as well. And those are always a lot of fun to do. And, the saddest thing is that cons are not around. And that is honestly where I get all of my new customers. Because I wear what I make at the convention, and venues, opportunities like the Her Universe fashion show is huge. And just all of the new friends that I make that way as well, who are also doing similar things that I'm doing.
I mean, I think all of us here, like, cons are a big part of what we do. I mean, Fawn, because, you do the wheelchair builds, and Genevieve obviously being a cosplayer and his voiceover, it's like not having cons has been hard.
Yeah, there's so many communities that you can connect with at the cons that it's definitely hampered a lot of communication and meeting new people and all of that. That's one of the things that was so wonderful about being able to go to conventions. We do about 10, 12 a year, because there's no replacing meeting people in person. Is also it's an unbelievable collection of people from all walks of life, all parts of the world, with all different interests, you know, because we're obviously we're involved in costumes and props, filmmaking, and there's just a lot of different communities out there that all kind of congregate at these conventions. So
Right. I think, and it seems like for the two of you, you kind of have set have set yourself apart as being the creators of things that are unique and different. Like Fawn, you were saying, you guys are Fonco is really known for, the monsters and the robots and, kind of the off-kiltery sort of things that you build. And obviously Len Marie, that the combination between vintage and geek, those aren't things you're seeing from a lot of other people out there. I mean, do you feel like that's helped you as kind of being one of the few people who does what they do, or has it been harder to make a name for yourself?
I think,
I mean, it's super niche.
What?
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it is super niche. No, actually, I love it. I love that every time someone comes in the door, they want some weird thing. And that the most common conversation we'll have with someone who we've just met for a project is they come in and say, we need this really weird thing and no one knows where I can get this weird thing. So I heard you can help us make this weird thing. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that comes from doing special effects and miniatures, and that, it just attracts the really creative filmmakers and creative types of media companies. So fortunately for us, and not a lot of people do it because, to be frank about it, it's really hard. Yeah. It's really, really difficult. Every project that comes in is something that you've never done before, ever. And so a lot of what we do is we've gotten really good about testing and experimenting and really honing in on answers to these unknown questions really quickly, because the pace of these projects is really fast. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely not for someone who doesn't enjoy challenges.
Right. And what about you, Len Marie?
Yeah, it's super niche what I do, but I definitely get a lot of people who want something to wear for Dapper Day because of the whole vintage aspect. And I definitely have a lot of people coming to me for the pockets. And that is actually one way that I am developing more business, is that I'm starting a company called Pocket Couture. And people can give me their clothes. I will put bigger pockets in it and then.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
Yeah, so it's I've been mulling over it for a while, but I'm really getting it launched because I figured out what would work best for COVID health and safety practices, because of needing to get personal items from other people and then me working on it. So essentially clothes are getting quarantined for a few days once I get it, and then when I finish it. But I'm excited to launch that. It's going to be happening soon, so you can find me at Pocket Couture on Instagram. Yeah, I would say that. I also, like, when you find something that people are really in demand of, and being able to shift towards that is something where that is coming from. And I would also say that, well, because another thing that I'm planning on doing this fall, seeing as how we're all going to be inside for a bit longer, is doing vintage style loungewear. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm really tired of wearing leggings and t-shirts.
I am so excited. I work with an organization called Pinups for Vets, and we all dress in vintage pinup clothing. And we've been trying to do quarantine videos, and I'm like, I might have to be emailing you and putting you in touch with our founder, because that sounds epic.
Absolutely. I would love that. Yeah, and I'm going to be, obviously, because of the classy looking Nerfherder name, we're starting with Star Wars, but a huge influence on me in the past couple years as well has been Dungeons and Dragons and Critical Role and the Adventure Zone. So I have those in the mix as well for geeky themed inspired stuff.
So what are some of the, and this is probably, there's many of them, but what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys had to, face or overcome in, making this business, being successful at what you're doing? Because I'm sure there's been instances, especially now with COVID, where you're just like, why didn't I just have a desk job? Why? Why did I have to be creative?
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I don't even know where to begin with all the challenges. I hadn't even, honestly, I hadn't even set out to build a business. It's just that I was doing freelance work between feature films, and then I built enough of a client base where I had to hire friends, and so I had to make a company, and then so went from one room in the house to 2 rooms in the house to moving somewhere and building a shop, and just kind of it grew over years. We even shut down once during the last recession. we dragged it out as long as we could, but in 2008, when everything collapsed, it became very difficult to run a business. So we actually shut down, and I swore I was never going to do a business again. And then I moved to LA to work with New Deal Studios, and then they slowed way down, and I got let go. And when I did, I kind of didn't know what else to do but to take clients. And so, I moved into this space here. It was Vanheim Studios before, and I just rented space here. And it was just kind of an experiment to fill some time until I found another gig. And then it just kept growing and growing. And next thing you know, I've been here for years, and we run the whole building now. Some of this just happens on its own. I think, I'm just kind of destined for it. But it is really, really hard. And this year has been no exception for sure.
Right.
Well, I think I'm in a similar place of what Fawn is describing, of having enough demand that you need to bring on other people. Like I'm right in that area, because I've been a one-woman show for a long time. And that's honestly the hardest part, is having to be my own business manager, accountant, crafter, builder, shipper, all of it. So I'm definitely ready to start expanding a bit more.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Genevieve.
Oh, I was gonna say absolutely. I know what it's like to be the one man show, to wear all the hats. It is daunting at the best of times.
Yeah,
Exhausting. Well, and that's kind of, that's the whole thing with those of us who are in like artistic endeavors, is that everyone sees the final product, which seems like so exciting and unique. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand everything that goes into creating the clothing, the photo shoots, the set, the builds, everything, recording in studios. It's, it seems like it's all just fun, but all of this hard work being said, it's obviously worth it, because you guys are doing this. You haven't quit. I mean, so the payoff is there creatively, or.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time I think about.
Okay. I think that there's a delay.
Every time I think about.
There's a little delay.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Every time I think about getting like a regular job and like having to go through the process of doing interviews, I'm just like, that all sounds awful. I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to keep doing this.
Make it work.
Yeah, I think it's I can't imagine doing anything else for a living, and owning the business has enabled me to continue doing what I love without ever a risk of getting laid off. That's really it. And then being someone that's like that is so connected to my community, I've always thought really strongly of connecting with people. I love working with people. I love connecting to different communities and all the things that we can do as a group when we get together and take on these really amazing projects. So for me, it's always been really gratifying to put so many artists to work as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about my fulfilling my dreams. I get to help other people fulfill their dreams as well. you know, and we've built, you know, I always feel like we've built something really special because we can do that. We can give back to the community.
Well, and for people who aren't familiar with Fonco Studios, you are a building, but you have individual different, I guess, businesses within that building, and you're independent, but sometimes you work together on things.
Yeah, we have multiple. Basically, we have spaces in Fonco Studios that we rent out. So we have someone who does costumes. We have performance capture volume with Noidum mocap. We have a toy company here. We are doing a show called Dare Package out of one of our production offices. And it's constantly changing too. You know, we definitely have our regular companies that we work with often here. But sometimes productions will move in while we're working on their project. So, you know, the face of the company kind of changes pretty frequently. It keeps things very interesting. And then Fonco itself, of course, runs, you know, multiple departments. We have a full design and development department, so we can, you know, art department, so we can design and plan productions. We have fabrication shops, so we can build pretty much anything, you know. We do mostly miniatures and weird things and creatures and robots. But you know, we do a lot of sets too, because sometimes you need to put a robot in a kitchen, you know. And then of course we have stages where we shoot everything. Right. So we really wanted to build, like I said, a community of people that can thrive, you know, being around each other, which we do. We all work for each other's clients. We all work on each other's projects, and it enables us as a group and as a community within the building to do absolutely everything on a project from start to finish.
Right. This might be more towards Len Marie, but there's a question in the chat that wants to know, have you had any challenges come up with inventory and supply, you know, and with COVID, and then, you know, as far as like delivery services being slowed down, or if you've had any issues, like if you're dealing with overseas clients or anything. And Fawn, you probably as well. I mean, the mail and everything's slowing down and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
well, in terms of shipping. In terms of shipping, I actually just did a Kylo and Rey cosplay for a friend of mine who lives in Scotland, and we FedExed everything, and it was actually showed up a day early. And she wanted it for Halloween this year, and so I made it in August, so that way I could ship it by September 1st. And so like being early in terms of that kind of stuff with shipping overseas, having a good plan is always good. Shipping for masks, I haven't had any problem, and it's probably because they're usually just thick enough for the largest size first class postage that USPS uses. And in terms of inventory, the only places I can find regular cotton for masks right now is online, or going with Spoonflower or something like that. Joann's is totally cleared out of any of their licensed quilting cottons, which is how I've made so many of my masks. I honestly, over the years, I just like will go to the shop and I'll see something that I like, and I pick up like 3 yards of it, and I have a bin that's full of it, and I'll use it to make men's ties or bow ties or something like that usually. But I just so happened to have it on hand when all of this got started. There are actually quite a few shops. I think it was back in June or July when stuff started reopening here in LA, that a lot of the fabric shops in downtown LA were reopening. So that hasn't been too big of a deal. And I also buy a lot of my supplies online. I really like Fabric Wholesale Direct and Cali Fabrics. Those are some really great resources. You can get swatches for like 50 cents. And it makes it easier because I don't have to drive nearly as far to go to any of those specialty shops. But I kind of do a blend of everything. It really depends on what I'm needing for that particular project.
Fawn, did you were about to say something?
Oh yeah, we've definitely had to factor into all of our build schedules and things. a certain amount of extra buffer time to account for suppliers getting us stuff really, really late. Some things we're just not able to get at all, and we've had to go on the hunt and get more things on eBay than normal. And because some of the, especially overseas suppliers, some of them just stopped shipping completely. A lot of places were shut down for a time, and of course we were in that boat that everyone was in early pandemic, where we didn't know how we were going to have toilet paper for everyone. So we've just gotten really creative with shopping over the pandemic. I think we're going to come out this other side of this as more expert shoppers than we were before.
That's good. That's a good point. Well, and I feel like, with the two of you, with the way that you have developed your business, if there's one thing you both have thrived on, it's resourcefulness. So it's like something like this pandemic happens and you're like, all right, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll pivot where we need. And Genevieve too, obviously you've been keeping yourself afloat during all of this. And like, I have a home studio. It's like, okay, one more challenge.
Right.
What do I have to do next?
Because I do mass mailings.
Honestly,
and
Yeah.
when the pandemic started and everything shut down, because all my customers know that everything goes out like in a mass set at the end of the month, because most of my stuff is it's photos and printed products, so it all gets ordered together and then gets sent out together. So in my mind, I was thinking, nobody's going to want me to be at USPS for hours on end doing getting out 60-odd orders of things, because that takes time, and especially if you have overseas orders too. So
Yeah.
it was all about planning, all right, I'm gonna break up the trips, the international is gonna go out Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the rest, you figure it out. At the end of the day, you figure it out.
I honestly think that I learned how to be resourceful from being
Yeah.
in theater.
That's true. I mean,
yeah, well, they give you
Yeah.
a toothpick and a paper clip, and they're like, all right, go put
Big
on
show.
Hamlet. It's pretty much the way of the theater.
for people who, because, in this community, because obviously we're very much focused on tabletop gaming, but, so we have a lot of very crafty people in this network, people who make builds, paint minis, make dungeon sets, all of these different types of things. And, we have gotten questions like, okay, well, I'm really good at these things. I've made them for friends. What is advice you have for people who want to look at turning, that hobby, that passion, taking that step into creating a business for themselves? And there's obviously no right answer or wrong answer.
Yeah, I think like so many things, you just have to study what it is that you want to do. I think working for other companies and kind of getting a sense of how other companies operate is extremely helpful. I learned a lot of really wonderful information when I was working for Industrial Light and Magic and Disney, and you kind of see the systems they put in place for success. And so when you walk away from a company like that, you really have the not just the knowledge, but also just the energy they put behind the things, the organization they put behind all of those things, and then you also know what is expected of you in terms of the amount of work that you are needing to produce.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the best training you can get, is to work for other companies and that do what you want to do. And then after that, it's just you gotta be ready for that commitment. You dive in head first and you don't stop.
Yeah, Disney
And you
especially.
don't quit.
I was just gonna say, Disney especially, they give you a framework in which you can apply to so many different things other than just your business. Dealing with people at the supermarket or your daily lives. If you couldn't guess, I also have worked for Disney before. But yeah, simple things such as, you know, asking other people, like, how's your day? You know, people, other service people, like, you know, people who check you out at the grocery store, I always try and be like, give them a hello, a hi, how's your day? Because it's the polite thing to do. But running your business that way is also, it'll help you a lot. So taking larger, you know, taking frameworks from larger businesses like that, if you've ever worked for, you know, big companies, that's a perfect way to apply it to yourself, especially to give yourself that motivation to be your own boss and keep a schedule.
Yeah. Well, Len Marie, did you have the similar experience? Were you working for other companies, or did you just kind of jump into it on your own? I mean, what are your suggestions?
Yeah,
or thoughts?
a little bit of both. I've spent a good deal of time being a costume PA on film and TV projects. So you definitely learn a lot in terms of like, oh, I guess we've all worked for Disney at this point. But you definitely learn a lot in terms of like how things are structured when you get to one of those higher levels. And I think if you are doing something more along the lines of what I do with like running a bit more like a web store, or mine has a lot more to do with networking, which I think connects very well with what Genevieve was talking about. I mean, I first started selling my stuff on Etsy, and I've been transitioning out of that into some of more of the networking stuff, and been working on building up my own web store so that way I can sell to people directly.
Right.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I actually had a question in the back of my mind that I've been dying to ask, and it's, what is probably the most interesting or strangest project that you have worked on? Because, I mean, we talked about, like, what a niche market you both, like, have a corner, a hold in. Obviously, Fawn, nothing NDA, of course, but, like, I need to know, what is the weirdest, coolest thing that you worked on?
This is to rate any of the projects that I do by the best or the coolest or the weirdest or any of that stuff is just really one of the toughest questions to answer.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'll say recently,
random thing.
We built a talking couch that swallowed a dad.
He's not eaten in that couch. He was the test subject, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We built so many. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I do love about what we do. We're constantly, you know, working for people who are trying to do something new and different, and so we get to work on a lot of weird, strange things. We did a decapitated person who walked around for a music video. We built a miniature guillotine and a working full-scale guillotine. That was, and it was rigged in a way that you could still put a person in it and it would drop, but it wouldn't hit them, which is essential for fake guillotines.
Fake guillotining.
We've done lava volcanoes on our stage. We've done all kinds of stuff. But I think that the talking couch might take the cake for the last month.
I love how you have to say that, the last month.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So there was a project I worked on, I think it was a couple years ago, that in terms of like something that was sort of weird and also challenged my skills. There was a web series that was about esports, and so they hired me to make the specialty costumes for the cosplayers that were in the story. So I made like a muffin head that had like lights on top, and there was like this like after party at one of the esports events, and all the cocktail waitresses were Tetris pieces. And so when they stood all next to each other, they would like fit together. And so I crafted those out of like foam blocks and then put foam over that to create all of the squares. But I think in terms of the best thing that I've worked on, it's my Her Universe designs. Like all three of them, I love them so much, and I learned so much just by doing. And honestly, that's like the biggest advice that I could give to anyone, is that if you have something that you are excited about, just keep doing it, because I don't really believe that people have talent. I think that people have passions, that they like it so much that they do it over and over and over and over and over and over again until they are just the best in their field. And yeah.
You both have mentioned, you know, we've talked about conventions, and you've talked about, you know, for both of you, the geek culture is very important. I mean, it's literally, you have a fashion line, you know, based on that. And Fawn, you've worked on some of the biggest, most impactful, you know, fantasy geek franchises, you know, ever. It seems like there is something a little unique with the geek community too. You know, do you feel like, you know, seeing other people in the industry who do things similar to you, but not involved in any sort of, either traditional fashion designers or people who just, you know, work on, you know, traditional film sets. Do you think that there's something special about the fact that you guys are working within an industry that involves kind of like this larger geek culture?
Wow. Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I kind of think that geek culture has grown into something much larger than it ever was. You know, growing up, when I went to a convention on the weekend, I certainly didn't tell anyone at school I'd gone to a convention. and I
could just walk into Comic-Con.
Subscriptions to comic books at the comic book store that these are all guilty pleasures for someone that's, especially once you hit high school and once you get into the adult world, these are all guilty pleasures. And it wasn't, I think, until Disney got a hold of Marvel, and as Star Wars fans grew up, that that we were given permission as adults to be interested in these things. And I think that that's why conventions have grown to the scale that they are. And I think that that's why, you know, even at an insurance company, you look at someone's desk and it's covered with action figures. You know, I just think that society on a whole has given people permission to be a little more youthful, a little more nerdy throughout their ages, which is something that wasn't the case when I was younger, you know. So I don't feel like what we do is unique, to answer your question, but
right.
But I feel like that culture has become a part, like that subculture has now become a part of our popular culture in this country, for sure, and maybe around the world. I'd say around the world too.
Yeah.
For fashion, and geek fashion in particular, we can, you know, talk about identity politics and theory about clothing. People are signaling who they are by what they wear. It's in like every button-down shirt, in every graphic t-shirt, in wearing a pair of jeans, or whether or not you have holes in those jeans, whether or not those holes were pre-made, or whether or not they were from being your favorite pair that you've worn for 20 years. It's so geek fashion is even more niche of that, of you are constantly telling other people what you identify with and who you identify as. And it's fun and exciting for me to do that in such a subtle way sometimes, that it may only be the person who is in that fandom who might recognize what you're wearing. And there's a little bit of joy in that. And it's about finding your tribe. And I love every aspect of all of those things.
So this might be really hard to answer. And, you know, because Fawn, you've been doing this for so long, and Len Marie, you've got, you know, such a journey. Is there anything that you've always wanted to do that you haven't done yet?
Yes. You know, I love this question, because last time I was asked this question, I said I want to work on a Godzilla movie, and then I got a call that week to work on a Godzilla movie. So let's
put it in the universe.
Cross our fingers and hope this works. But I want to work on a Tron movie now. Like Tron Legacy to me was one of the most beautiful pieces of art, to come out of Hollywood in a long time. So, that's what I'm crossing my fingers for now.
I love that.
Put that wish out there in the universe.
Yeah,
Fawn.
put it in the universe.
I'll get the call next week. Crossing the fingers.
Yeah.
Well, getting a call next week, can Kathleen Kennedy get me to make a dress for Queen Amidala or something? Because that is right up my alley. Something big and fun and extravagant and beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. So obviously, COVID has really changed the industry and changed how things have worked. Does it seem like some of the things that you've had to do during this are gonna, moving forward, just be the way things are now? Or do you think, it's obviously hard to predict the future. Do you think things will kind of go back? Or, because you've mentioned you guys have learned a lot of things during this, Fawn on, eBay shopping and, what do you think, how do you think this is going to change how things work, 2 years from now when maybe we're back to normal?
I think maybe we won't spread the flu around work so much.
Wash my hands.
We've got the hand sanitizing stations everywhere. We all have now a collection of fashion masks that we wear around. I don't know. I think that actually as soon as we can, it'll be back to business as usual. I think everyone's really itching for it. I do think we'll all be safer in the way more, I think, aware and conscious of how we do spread the flu and things like that. And I think that hygiene part of it won't go away. But I think everyone's really dying to shake hands and hug and do all those things that we used to do. And shoots. We've done very, very few shoots at the studio. Our stages have been dark for, weeks on end. So, it's not sustainable in a long term to run a business in this way. So I think, mostly everything will go back to the way it was. Also crossing fingers.
Yeah, I agree. I think people will want to go back to business as usual, but I think that the things that will definitely change is that I think people are way more conscious about the level of work that they have and the ways in which the environments and contexts can burn you out really fast. And COVID has definitely had that sort of effect on me of just the psychological, mental stuff that you have to go through every single day is just as tiring as going and running a mile. So I think that is, and in particular, when other people or when people get sick, wearing a mask, if you are the one who is sick, that was something that I never even really thought of before. And now it's well, anytime I'm sick, I'm wearing a mask from now on, because I think everyone is a lot more conscious of that and the science of it and all of those things. Right now I've gone back to not as much of a full-time level, but I do alterations for people, and I've been doing masked fittings. And my friend Amanda Hunt, she owns a bridal shop called Lorian Bridal. It is geek themed from head to toe. It's phenomenal. It's in Glendale. She is doing appointments, but it's only one person at a time, and everyone's wearing masks, and everything gets cleaned before and after. So yes, please go look her up, Lorian Bridal. She's amazing. You'll get treated like a princess or a queen or a witch or a hobbit if you want.
This is exciting.
I might have just gotten engaged a few months ago in March, so
Congratulations! It's so exciting.
I was gonna say this seems perfect for you too.
I wasn't that into the idea of a ceremony, but now that but just the word of Lothlorien bridal just kind of piqued my attention. So I'll have to check that out. Definitely.
Yes.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes left. God, I feel like we've covered so much. I mean, is there anything else like you would want to impart, from things that you have learned or are still learning that, might just be beneficial?
I think that it, I think for anyone who is thinking about doing something that is their passion, whether it be their own business or for themselves, I think it's just important to know that it's okay to make mistakes and not to quit. It's supposed to be hard. So when things are hard, don't expect them to be easy, I think that, I actually do think a lot of education systems have failed people in not teaching them the importance of work ethic and just how important it is to just keep driving forward. Even when you fall, get back up, and that drive is just really, I think, a big secret to my success is to just keep growing, keep learning, approach the world as a student. Don't get too comfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be work.
Yeah.
That's why they call it work. I always say if they can take away budgets and schedules, we call it play.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Like, because like voiceover is the same way. Everyone's like, oh, you just sit in a booth all day and make funny voices. And it's like, no, that's what you do. That's the 1% that you do. That's the fun part, but it's the 99 of everything else that gets you to there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I say if my work looks easy, then I'm doing my job. Yeah. Then we're all doing our jobs. If we make everything that we do look easy, that just means that we are some great magicians and we're good at what we do. I think Fawn, you hit on a very important thing to impart to young people these days. With our culture being like fast, like you get it now and you get it immediately. With that outlook on things, young people these days think that if they're not being successful right at the get-go, then it's not working and it's not worth it. So just give it up and move on to something else. That's what I've come across a lot talking to people. But what I have found is that, again, as you said, the harder you work at it and the more that you do it, the better chances are that you're going to fall into something that is exactly what you want to do. Like, I never imagined that I'd be a professional cosplayer. I just, over time, doing it, and, being like, oh, maybe I'll open a shop, maybe I'll open a Patreon, maybe I'll do this or that. I've fallen into becoming a professional cosplayer. And so you kind of just naturally, as you chip away at life, find your path into it, especially if you continue to do the things that you like.
Yeah. Lynn, any last words of advice or?
I mean, I 100% agree with all of that. Like, that is those are the mantras that I have to live with every single day with my work too. And I think the pandemic has really shown me how I need to take the time to take care of myself. So that way my work is also the best that it can be. And I think we can also forget that part.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This was amazing. I mean, I learned so much, and I know the people in the chat were, piping in and really loved what you guys had to say. And one person is even like, I need to put that as a mantra that I'm listening to on a loop.
Get it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I mean, we've been popping this in the chat, but again, where can people find you guys, you know, if they want to check out your work or get in touch with you?
Fonco Studios is Fonco Studios on all platforms. And then I'm Fon H Davis on all platforms. I also have instructional DVDs available on Amazon.com. We stream on Amazon Prime, and then we also, I have separate classes for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts.
Awesome.
I'm mostly active on Instagram, so you can find me there at Classy Looking Nerfherder, and my link tree there will send you everywhere else I am.
Well, thank you again. Genevieve, what are we going to be talking? I mean, kind of what we're talking about next week is similar to this week, but
it's slightly similar, a little different, and it again has to do with costuming, cosplaying, also LARPing. So we're going to be talking about cosplay LARPing game plans. How are you going to plan out that perfect cosplay from the very beginnings of thinking about materials to construction to wearing it at the convention?
Yes.
And we're going to go from the A to the Z of it. And we're going to have some amazing guests to talk about that. And I'm excited to give you my input as well.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys again. And chat, as always, thank you so much for tuning in and for all your advice. Enter raffle in the chat right now for the giveaway. The word raffle. And Chris will announce the winner when you all come back here at 6:30 for Realms of Vucador. He will announce the winner at the beginning. So go to the bathroom, get something to eat, but come back here in 30 minutes for the next show. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, guys.